Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Applexus Expert Series podcast. My name is Elizabeth Frattantuno, and I'll be your host today. And with me is Joe Falui, the managing principal for Applexus's Quality Engineering practice. Hey, Joe, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Elizabeth. How about yourself?
I'm great. Thanks for being on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
So the last time that you were on the program, we talked a little bit about quality engineering. So I have a couple more questions that I wanted to ask. The first one is, how would a company go about executing or embarking on a quality engineering program for their SAP projects?
Very good question, Elizabeth. And let me start the answer to that question with the delegation aspect, because there's a lot of confusion about who owns and who does not own quality engineering within an organization. Establishing a shared understanding of quality within an organization and institutionalizing it in a way that everybody understands that it's their responsibility is really important. Now, what you're going to find out is that many successful high quality software deliveries require full involvement of every person on the team. Now, with that being said, organizations must also set up, a central organization within the company that is responsible for quality engineering, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done, from institutionalizing the process and, of course, improving the process. And the quality engineering department or organization within a company has that responsibility. So there should still be one, but it's important that there's a global or company-wide understanding that every single person that touches a product, whether from the business side or from the IT side, has quality responsibility. And everyone in the project, whether you're the PMO, a technical team member, or you're an engineer on the project, you have your own responsibility. So this is very important that from a delegation perspective that, people need to understand. Now, if you remember in our past podcast, we discussed quality engineering as being a continuous end-to-end process that starts at the beginning of the project and goes all the way through every single phase in a project lifecycle. Now, quality execution for an S4 implementation should always start from prepare phase. Most companies that I've seen, most projects that I've seen, they delay the engagement of quality engineer or quality engineering until explore, which is really a bad idea. And the reason that we want to engage quite early during the prepare phase is that at this point, the engineers are doing what we call business process discovery exercise. Because until you truly understand from a user perspective how they're planning to use a product or what their current business operations are, it's very hard for you to really be able to satisfy the customers. Because what you're going to be focused on is really getting the program to work and making sure that there are no defects. That's great. But at the end of the day, if you have a product that works but does not satisfy the end customer's needs, then it really defeats the purpose. So in this prepare phase, that's the work that is done by quality engineering, really getting all that together. And once this is done, in the explore phase, and you go through the fit gap analysis and get the actual solution. Once it's been reviewed with the customers, you get all that understood. Now you are the forefront of that, because you already know what the users are expecting. So when they go through all these other workshops and deliverables, what you're trying to do is lining up and making sure that what the customer wants is what's being planned, right? So this is really important at that very early stage. Now, once you get into the realize phase, if the project is following an agile methodology, there will be continuous technical and end user validation. This would help to catch any defects very quickly because of this early engagement. I think we mentioned this in our first podcast as well. And you get this early feedback from the customers. Really, really important, because if you don't do this, it means you're deferring finding out issues, getting customers' feedback until later. And that later what you're going to hear may not be what you want to hear. Maybe that, we're not really happy with it because of X, Y, and Z. And that means you have to go back to the drawing board, like we've said before, to go back and fix things and come all the way. So there's so much cost associated with that. So, but avoiding that by engaging your customers early and going through this rigorous, continuous engagement interaction with the users is phenomenal. You can't go wrong with it. Now, at the same token, while that's going on, there's also progressive stringing of tests that occurs while you're going through this sprint in an agile methodology. As you're going and these individual components are being built, or the features, the little features are being built, you're stringing them together as you go. What this helps you to do is that by the time you get to SIT, you've practically almost tested everything in bits and pieces. And you've already connected them, or of course, stringing them together through that test. So when you get to SIT, there's no panic attack that, oh, well, things are not connected, things are not working. So your SIT, which is your system integration testing, will also be a smooth ride, okay? So, and this is really important too, because once you get past this, you're moving into UAT. You get through UAT, you're doing your targeted regression testing, which is, of course, also based on some level of impact assessment that has been conducted to make sure that you're testing what's absolutely needed and not conducting an exhaustive testing. So this is the way that we recommend to our customers to execute quality engineering for their SAP programs.
Oh, I'm exhausted just listening to it. But so let's switch gears just a little bit and let's talk about Applexus and how Applexus specifically uses quality engineering to help customers on their SAP S4 journey.
I always wait for this question because it gives me the opportunity to really showcase what value we bring to the table. At Applexus, we base our quality engineering practice on three key principles. One is the shift left principle, and what that simply means is starting at the beginning, right? The second part is a continuous testing and integration, right? I talked about that in our first question. This is a cyclical thing that happens and it needs to happen throughout the development life cycle. This is another principle that we consider as a very strong pillar in our method, in our way of practicing quality engineering. The third one is that we also leverage customer-centric principle. These are the three key things. Now, the end user is always at the core of our testing strategy because we understand and we believe that there's a difference between getting a program to work and getting the customer's experience to be met. So for us, we think both, they have to happen. They have to happen in a program. So this is the reason that we put customers at the core of our strategy. And by the way, all of this is built on SAP Activate framework, right? So we make sure that that's also part of what we do. Now, our QA process, coupled with all the enabled content from our pre-configured industry-focused solution, such as the pre-built automated test script, the test cases, the end-to-end scripts, all of this enable us to deliver quality service fast to the customers. Now, in terms of engagement, there are three ways, a few ways I would say that we engage with customers. And one of it is, when you embark on an SAP program, one of it is that we can advise customers in an advisory capacity on how to move from an unstructured quality engineering practice to more structured quality engineering practice to support their S4 program. The second way is that we can provide quality engineering project support services to support customers' S4 migration or implementation project. And the third way is that we can also partner with the customer on a long-term basis. And this is really helping them to establish the process, continue to carry on and improve the processes, and of course, getting everything else in terms of technology that is needed to carry on how they execute their quality engineering program against their S4. All of this is part of that third engagement model. So these are the ways that Applexus engages with customers to help them through the S4 program journey.
Terrific. Thanks so much for that. And it sounds like, if I have to summarize what we talked about today, it's that quality engineering is really the responsibility of everybody in the organization, whether you're a user, a business user, a functional user, a technologist. It's part of what you need to be thinking about from the beginning. And the second takeaway that I got from what you said today, Joe, is that you do need to start these activities at the beginning of the program. The earlier, the better. So I would summarize it as think of quality engineering early and think of it often. Is that a fair statement?
That's absolutely correct, Elizabeth.
Great. Well, I want to thank you for being on today's program and invite the audience to stay tuned for another episode of the Applexus Expert Series podcast. Thanks and have a great day.